need to understand what sustainability reporting actually is. Sustainability reporting is the disclosure of environmental, social, governance or ESG information. But more importantly, it shows how companies manage risks like climate change, how they use resources like energy and water, and how they impact society and governance. Now, there is the important shift in accounting. Before this, company only reported financial performance, but now, under modern accounting standard, company must also explain how sustainability risks affect financial performance. This is where IFRS 1 and IFRS S2 come in. IFRS S1 focus on general sustainability-related disclosure, while IFRS S2 focus on climate-related disclosure specifically. Together, they aim to make reporting more consistent, more comparable, and more useful for investors. In simple words, it turns sustainability into something measurable, not just storytelling. And this is very important, especially in the energy and utilities sector, because these companies are directly linked to carbon emission and energy transition. Now, we move to company overview, which the first one is Gas Malaysia. Gas Malaysia is a regulated utility company in Malaysia. Think of it as a company that makes sure natural gas reach industry, businesses, and household. It operates the Natural Gas Distribution System, or NGDS, which is basically the backbone of gas supply in Peninsula Malaysia. By financial year 2025, it served over 20,000 residential users and thousands of industrial and commercial customers. Financially, the company experienced a slight drop in revenue and profit due to lower gas price and demand. But what is interesting in this, even when profit go down, the company continues investing heavily in infrastructure through its long-term GM32 strategy. So, Gas Malaysia is more stable, regulated, and Malaysia-focused. Now, YTL Power is very different. It is not just a Malaysian company, it is also a global utility group. It operates in power generation in Singapore, water services in the UK, which is Wasek Water, telecommunication in Malaysia, yes 5G, and other investment. So, instead of only one businesses, it has multiple engines of growth. In financial year 2025, revenue slightly declined, but total asset increased, significantly due to expansion and acquisition like Randhill. So, in simple terms, Gas Malaysia is one focus, meanwhile YTL Power is diversified and global. Now, we move into the most important part, which how credible their sustainability reporting actually is. We evaluate both companies using 5 key criteria under IFRS S1 and S2. For the first one is in terms of clarity and connectivity. This criterion check the companies clearly connect sustainability to their business. For Gas Malaysia, sustainability is clearly linked to its NGDS operation and GM32 strategy. It shows how sustainability connect to its core gas distribution business and capital investment plan. However, most of this connection is explained in words rather than financial figure. For YTL Power, sustainability is linked directly to big capital investment like Wasek Water Environmental, upgrades hydrogen-ready power plant in Singapore. So, here we see a stronger investment-driven connection. Both companies are clear and score 6/10, but YTL Power is more capital-linked and visible in investment terms. The third one is consistency and integration. This check governance and reporting consistency. For Gas Malaysia has quarterly reporting system involving board, Risk and Sustainability Committee, and Management Committee. This shows strong and regular integration. For YTL Power has a wider ESG structure but reporting is less frequent and less consistent across different units. So, Gas Malaysia is more consistent, which scores 7/10, while YTL Power is broader but less uniform, and they score 6/10. Now we move to specificity and maturity. This criterion asks, do companies clearly identify what sustainability issue matter most? Gas Malaysia use a structured 4-step process, which is the first one, identification, prioritization, validation, and metrics, and identify 13 material issues across ESG area. This shows a focused and well-defined approach, while YTL Power also use a similar process, but because it's operate in multiple countries and industry, its material issues are harder to consolidate at group level. So, Gas Malaysia score 7/10, while YTL Power score 6/10. Next, we move to transparency of boundaries and assumption. This checks how clearly company explain data, scope, and assumption. Gas Malaysia clearly define reporting boundaries and use the GHG protocol methodology. But some assumptions, especially scope 3 estimations, are still limited. YTL Power is very transparent about limitation, especially differences between countries and reporting period. So, Gas Malaysia is clearly structured, but YTL Power is more transparent about limitation. So both score 6/10. Last but not least is in terms of comparability. Gas Malaysia provide 3 years of sustainability data, making trend analysis easier. YTL Power also provide 3-year data, but comparability is affected by acquisition like Redhill, which changes emission figures significantly. Thus, Gas Malaysia is most stable comparison, which scores 6/10, while YTL Power is less stable due to expansion, so it scores 5. Overall, for this first analysis, shows that Gas Malaysia is more structured and consistent, while YTL Power is more complex but more investment driven. But both companies are still improving their sustainability reporting under IFRS S1 and S2.
Now let's talk about assurance level. Assurance is basically an independent check to confirm that the sustainability numbers a company report are actually true, similar to how an external auditor checks financial statements. For Gas Malaysia, we give a score of 2/5, which means internal review only. Their own internal audit team called GIAD check a few specific indicators, things like GHG emissions, water use, electricity use, and even safety response time. But this is still an in-house check. No outside auditor or recognized standard like ISAE 3000 was used. So even though it's better than nothing, it's not truly independent. So for YTL Power, we give a score of 1/5, the lowest level. In their own report, they clearly state they have not undertaken third-party assurance for non-financial data. They say the data is verified using internal sources, but they don't even name which team does this. So it's less clear and less structured than Gas Malaysia approach. So overall, both companies are weak here. Gas Malaysia is a bit ahead because at least they tell us who checked the data. But neither company has real external assurance yet, and this matters because investors trust number more when an outside party has verified them.
Next, I will be presenting part 3 of our report, which focus on the financial sustainability linkage. In this section, we analyze how financial performance connect with sustainability capacity, comparing Gas Malaysia and YTL Power. First, let's look at profitability. For Gas Malaysia, the net profit margin is relatively low but stable, around 5.49% to 5.2% due to regulated pricing. However, the company shows strong return with ROA and ROE remaining high because of its asset-light distribution model. The limitation here is that lower margin reduce its ability to self-fund sustainability initiative. For YTL Power, the profit margin is higher but declining from 15.27% to 11.68% as energy price normalize. Its ROA is lower due to its capital-intensive operation, and ROE is also declining, partly influenced by high leverage. Next is liquidity. Gas Malaysia has current and quiet ratio slightly below 1.0 times, which is typical for a regulated utility with predictable cash flow. However, this limits its ability to fund large sustainability projects with the external financing. On the other hand, YTL Power has strong liquidity with current ratio improving from 1.71 times to 1.77 times. Its high cash reserve provides flexibility to directly fund long-term sustainability projects without relying heavily on looking at leverage. Gas Malaysia has strong financial capacity with a lower debt-to-equity ratio of around 1.38 times and very high interest coverage. This means it has ample room to take on green financing, such as sustainability-linked sukuk, without financial stress. In contrast, YTL Power has higher leverage, with debt-to-equity ratio increasing to 2.49 times and lower interest coverage. This indicates limited borrowing capacity, and any cash flow shock could affect its ability to service debt and invest in sustainable. For efficiency, we use the asset turnover ratio. Gas Malaysia performs strongly, generating about 2 ringgit Malaysia revenue for every 1 ringgit Malaysia of asset, although there is a slight decline due to ongoing expansion. YTL Power has a much lower ratio, reflecting its capital-intensive nature. The decline is mainly due to new asset and sustainability investment that have not yet generated matching. This slide summarizes all key financial ratios. Overall, Gas Malaysia shows strong efficiency, high return, and solid financial stability, although with lower liquidity. YTL Power, meanwhile, has stronger liquidity but faces challenge in profitability, efficiency, and higher. Finally, we look at the credibility gap between financial and sustainability disclosure. Financial statements are audited, verified, and highly reliable. However, sustainability disclosure are still weaker as they are not externally assured, lack quantified target, and often present risk in qualitative terms. For Gas Malaysia, the main issue is not financial capacity, but the maturity of sustainability disclosure. For YTL Power, higher leverage and lower coverage create financial constraints, meaning sustainability effort may be more sensitive to financial risk. In conclusion, while both companies show potential, Gas Malaysia is financially stronger for sustainability financing, whereas YTL Power relies more on its liquidity but faces higher financial risk.
Now, moving to our discussion and future outlook. First, the key challenges. We found 3 here, which is companies still depend only on internal checking. Nobody outside the company has verified their sustainability numbers. Second is climate risk is explained in words, not numbers. For example, neither company has calculated what would happen to their asset value if a carbon tax was introduced. Third is comparing data across year is difficult. YTL Power emission rose sharply in financial year 2025, but that's mainly because Run Hill operation were added for the first time, not because the population actually got worse. Gas Malaysia also only just started reporting Scope 3 emissions, and even then, only 2 out of 15 possible recommendations. The first one is both companies should work toward external assurance, starting with a basic level called Limited ISAE 3000 assurance. It is focusing on core emissions and safety data first. Second one is they should quantify climate risk financially. For example, modeling what a specific carbon price would mean for asset value or borrowing costs, instead of just describing it in general terms. Lastly is they should set one clear date target like reduce Scope 1 and 2 emissions by 40% by 2035 instead of a vague statements like progressively aligning. Governance and long-term value creation. Gas Malaysia has a strong balance sheet with low debt at 1.38 times equity and very high interest coverage at almost 27 times. This means they have plenty of room to borrow more for green projects like issuing green sukuk. Their real gap is not money, it's the quality of their disclosure and assurance. For YTL Power, on the other hand, has bolder and bigger climate projects like the West Head Water Program and the Hydrogen Ready Plant, but they carry much higher debt at 2.49 times equity and thinner interest coverage at just over 3 times. So they have less room to absorb any climate-related shock. So for the conclusion is, both companies are still in the middle of their journey. Neither one has set a clear target with a date to cut emissions. Neither one has full offsite checking yet. The main problem is the same for both companies. Their financial numbers are checked by auditors, so we can trust them, but not for their sustainability numbers as they only checked by themselves, not by an outside party. Fixing this is the most important thing for both companies need to do for next step.